Hello everyone and welcome back to another Jurassic World Evolution 3 video where we're going to be going over some of the new footage that has come out regarding the gameplay and just a few other things that I've managed to find that I know by now a lot of you have probably seen other YouTubers' videos, but I thought I would give my perspective on a few features. And yeah, there's a lot to see here, some very exciting things and some things that I personally was actually really expecting to see as well, and a lot of extra details that maybe none of us were actually expecting at all. So without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? So our first screenshot is this. So this shows the Gentle Giants encounter, which is one of the new guest attractions. So you can see at one of our guests coming in and patting the baby Triceratops. I can only assume that it's probably like a small pen of some kind, but like with the Gentle Giants petting zoo in Jurassic World, you did have these fairly sizable, well I say sizable, sort of corrals that you generally see goats and baby goats and lambs housed in like your conventional zoo's petting zoo, or just a regular petting zoo, but basically got these baby dinosaurs and they're going to be hanging out in there. I don't know whether this is a particular small encounter station or what, or the guests will actually be able to enter the little habitat and actually go around patting and feeding the little dinosaurs. That's to be seen, but it would certainly be really cool if that could be the case. I know Planet Zoo added this with the Barnyard Animal Pack, and it looks like many features that were added between the two games are being sort of shared between Planet Zoo and Jurassic World Evolution 3 in the case of the animal encounters, as well as the viewing domes back with Evolution 2. Those were added, and I think a little bit afterwards viewing domes were added to Planet Zoo as well. So you can see similar ideas being applied to different games, but this looks pretty cool here, and I'm really excited to see more of this Gentle Giants encounter, as well as several other attractions that we know are coming to the game. This shot comes just after it, showing off some of the Maltese building sets. So you can see a lot of different pieces that you'll be able to use. Some benches that guests are actually sitting on, which is a really cool thing to see. I don't know if the bins are actually usable, but it would be really cool if they were. You can see a lot of Mediterranean-inspired building pieces all around the park. So you've actually got some cannons up on the rooftop here, which are obviously props. They're not actual cannons that you'll be able to use on any escaped dinosaurs. You've also got a swimming pool that I imagine would be placeable, just whether I don't think guests would actually be able to swim in it though. But you've got all the chairs and the deck chairs all set up here where people are sitting under the parasols. You've also got the ventilation props that you can also put on top of the building, so you've got complete control of how your buildings can look, and I think you'd be able to create some really unique shapes. You can also see up in the top right, the zip line has returned from Jurassic World Evolution 2, which is a pretty cool return, as well as a new underwater viewing gallery, which does not have the roof like it does in Evolution 2, but instead being completely open, and you can see our Mosasaurus going up to feed on the shark feeder, which is also returned, as well as the lagoon hatchery. So we're going to see a lot of the lagoon items be returning. It also looks like you'll actually be able to place several dinosaur skeletons, hopefully, because you've got this Spinosaurus skull, or at least Spinosaur skull. It could be a different species sat up on this table. Just looking through to see if there's anything else. You've got some ancient structures that you're able to construct as well, and several other new plants like these date palms that you can see scattered across the map. I think those have been ported in from Planet Zoo. You can also see several forms of paleoflora. So you've got those, I believe those were called the calamites in Evolution 2, over near the viewing gallery, and also the ginkgo up on the next terrace. So that's pretty cool, and lots of interesting features. You've also got some shutters that you can put on those windows. Next we go to see some of the incubation process. So you can see our Hammond Creation Lab, which has undergone another change in design. It looks, the fences also look a bit different too. But this is a pre-alpha build, so things may not be working 100%, as I can see the corner of that fence doesn't look quite right. But you can see the hatchery overall, the interface looks fairly similar. So you got the hatchery bays, of which you only have 5. You'll also be able to add in some upgrades on the 3rd tab up there. So probably accelerated growth, expanded incubation bays, that sort of thing. But you've got the batches are returning from Evolution 2, so you'll be able to release multiple species, multiple individuals of a species at once. So that's pretty cool to see making its return, with only 4 for Triceratops this time, as I think you were able to incubate 6, although this may not be the max batch size, because of course there are incubation failures that are, egg failures that were in Evolution 2, so it looks like that might actually be returning here. And we come into the preview panel, so we'll be able to actually see what our dinosaurs look like before we release them into the park. So you can see here with our male Triceratops. Now I did actually misinterpret what was up here, so the desired population, I believe that's actually just like how many individuals they want, rather than how many are actually present. You can also see the scientist limit, so scientists are back. That is something I did miss. And you've also got the main bar down the bottom right, showing the money that you have, the star rating, sabotage meter, the speed, pause and go, that sort of thing, as well as some undo buttons, which are going to be really handy when constructing things out of the modular building set, but also a camera icon with a 1 on it. Now I can only assume that it could mean first person mode, which would be a really cool thing to see actually be in the game. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that is what that is. First person mode could be coming to the game. So I'm really excited to see that. I am curious though, in here where you actually select the pattern and the skin, because I don't really see anything obvious there, but there could be a menu back a bit further, or you select the actual individual and that's how you select the pattern afterwards. So it goes in to a different menu, and yeah, we'll just have to wait and see on this. We've seen fairly little of the actual creation process, or at least relatively little, so I feel like there's a lot more going on than we can see right here. Then we also get a shot here of the nest interface, so you can see a medium nesting area. So a medium nesting area where many dinosaur species can lay their eggs. So it's not just specific to one type of dinosaur or animal. It is for a general group of medium dinosaurs. So probably your ceratopsians, maybe stegosaurs, ankylosaurs, your medium carnivores like Carnotaurus and Allosaurus, and then you'll probably get larger nests for the larger species and smaller nests for some of the smaller ones. But you can see a meter of the babies that are about to leave the nest. So this is basically how the babies occur. So you can't release them from the hatchery. You actually have to release them from the nest because they are bred individuals. Although it would be cool if you could actually select what age you wanted your dinosaur to leave the hatchery at. But you can actually discard the eggs before they leave the nest, which is a bit interesting. You've also got a tab saying occupant, so it is claimed, dinosaur, Triceratops juvenile, nest type medium, and an entertainment reputation. And you'll also be able to see the mother and the father of the offspring. And then we get a look at our Triceratops juveniles. So this one that we're selected on is a female. So you can see the individual dinosaur interface has undergone a big change. So you can actually see the icon of the dinosaur as it would probably appear in the hatchery, although that looks like possibly the silhouette of the original Triceratops silhouette from Evolution 1. I don't know if that was the same one for Evolution 2. No, it wasn't. I remember the Evolution 2 one. But you've got all the tabs that you would expect. So you've got the basic one that tells you base comfort, health, food, water, stamina, security rating, all that sort of stuff. If it's content or looking for food. You've also got the comfort tab next to it, the disease tab, that one with the clutch of eggs we'll get to in a bit. So you've also got the star rating and genetics, the social tab, information, which will probably tell you stuff about like your animal's infamy and other aspects of its genome, perhaps. And also a family tree, so you'll actually be able to see descendants of individuals. So you'll be able to go back all the way to the first Triceratops pair that you've ever bred and go all the way down through the generations and see where you are right now. You can also see in the bottom right, we also have our conservation, entertainment and security factions. So you can see how many points you have for each of them. So I'm assuming this is probably part of the campaign, which would be really cool to see, because I'm actually really excited for the campaign. I'm very interested because we've got a shot later that we'll be able to go over that shows a bit of that. And then we have this little showcase of the modular building, so you can see a tab on the side, and basically you can scale the different items as well as prefabs. So you've got hotel prefabs that you've got there of various different styles, so you're not obligated to create stuff from the scratch every step of the way. It's not like Planet Zoo where generally you have to create everything. But here you have the option to create everything, but you also have the option to just take stuff that's already been made prior to starting to build in the game. So that's probably going to be helpful for the players that are probably a bit daunted by the prospect of modular building, because it is an undertaking, and I think I've gotten fairly experienced with it after playing Planet Zoo for so long. So I think I will be doing a bit of modular building when Evolution 3 comes out, but I will certainly find the prefabs useful, especially during the campaign. But yeah, you've got FlexiColor, which is going to come in really handy for several items. We've also got the bar on the side, which has got all sorts of different things that you'll be able to do. So you've got text there, you've got rocks, doors, windows, all sorts of pieces that you'll be able to focus on and use for constructing your building. So it's a really wide selection of pieces that you'll be able to use. And I just saw an icon that had a mosquito in amber, so I'm assuming that's probably fossil pieces, so bones, ammonite shells perhaps. So that's going to be really cool to see. And you've also got Jurassic icon in a bronze and a silver. Yeah, there's a lot. Basically, when it came to modular building for the Evolution series, there was always a great prospect of all sorts of new items that can be brought in. Oh, you've even got a little statue there of a hatchling coming out of an egg. But we'll be able to check all this out when the game comes out. Yeah, you've got all sorts of stuff that you'll be able to put into your parks now that you weren't able to before. So I'm really interested in seeing just how much we'll be able to do. So then we also have this shot here of the terrain. So some of the terrain tools, and you've got this ramping terrain piece, which basically you sort of draw where you want the ramp to go, and then the terrain shapes itself to align with the rest of the park in that sense. So like you continue building up, and then you're able to place a path in and all sorts of other items. And you can see some of the scenery pieces we saw back in the official trailer, the announcement trailer down the bottom, and a few of the screenshots. And coming up to the top of this mountain, well, I say mountain, more cliff. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I am still curious as to whether we'll have bridges. You'll probably be able to build a bridge with the modular building set, but whether guests will actually be able to walk over it is another question entirely. It would be really cool if they could. But we'll have to wait and see what happens, because we haven't seen any bridges yet or elevated pathways. But it is still possible, I would say. And then we get this shot of our escaped baryonyx running through the park. We also see several new plants that we also saw in brief shots in the trailer, as well as a new path, which is this sort of cobblestone path. You also have that Mosasaurus statue in the middle of that fountain that we pointed out in the trailer breakdown, and we've also got those rock sort of art formations that you've got over there, which sort of shape different species. So we pointed out a Dunkleosteus one in the previous video, but I can see one that looks like it's based on a predatory dinosaur in the front, One that's a pterosaur, which I think I also pointed out in the last video, but also one that looks like it's a sauropod, probably a Brachiosaurus. But this map looks really cool. This is definitely the tropical biome, but I just wonder where this is exactly. If it's Isla Nublar, one of the previous islands in the Evolution series, we don't know. It could also be Hawaii or Indonesia. Indonesia actually seems likely for this, as it is one of the campaign levels, as we'll see a little bit later. But the main point of this is showing off the security camera. So security cameras you place around your park, and you're basically able to see when dinosaurs escape, and they'll keep focus on any escaped dinosaurs, such as this Baryonyx. And another shot here showing the capture team in action, but mostly giving us a great view of this park, which honestly is really pretty, and also shows off another building theme, which looks to be somewhat more tropical, as you have thatch roofs that you're able to use freely, with glass windows panels in between. That looks like a little bit of a hotel over there because you've got a swimming pool, the fountains. I do like the addition of the king ferns. King ferns are just a really cool species of fern that really do decorate your park very well. You can also see a lagoon from the back that looks like it has a rock in the middle next to that shark feeder. Although that shark feeder almost looks like it's in the middle because you got some the columns that support it. But that could actually be a new item. Interesting. Very curious to see what that is. We've also got some decorative lakes, and in several shots you've seen that the waterfalls, they're not just steep waterfalls, yet they can also be fairly shallow ones. So you can technically create a cascading flowing river in your park, which I think just really adds to the creative level a bit more, in that you'll be able to, probably when the Rebirth content comes out, whether it's in the base game or not, you'll be able to recreate that T-Rex river scene fairly well, which is really cool. And then you just have this little thing here with the glitching screen, which shows off several different dinosaur skulls. So possibly confirms a few different species. So we've got a T-Rex skull, which is the icon of the franchise. Parasaurolophus, a very clear one of Brachiosaurus. Like, I had to be quick when I got this. The one on the left, that big red one, I've seen people suggest it's Sungaripterus, but it is definitely a pterosaur. The one at the bottom, that blue one there, looks like a Spinosaurid skull, possibly Baryonyx. The one at the top looks like either an ornithopod or a stegosaur, possibly more ornithopod, so possibly Dryosaurus. The big red one under the Brachiosaurus looks to be a Diplodocid, so either a Apatosaurus or Diplodocus, in the case of species we know we have in the game. But that bottom one, I'm curious as to what that one is, because I don't quite recognize that skull structure, although it could be an Ankylosaur, possibly. But yeah, I don't really recognize that one too well. It could be a new species, but it could also be a very familiar one, as I don't see a Ceratopsian skull, so that could be part of what that is. But yeah, if you're able to get better shots of this bit here, leave those down in the comments and I'll read through them and see what species we've got here. We've also got all these floating letters, which is sort of like a conspiracy trope that you see in all sorts of movies. Defenses neutralized as well, so this is obviously a sabotage that is probably occurring in the campaign. And the voice overheard, it is a British voice. When I heard it, I thought it was Peter Serafinowicz. I hope that I'm saying that right. I apologize if I'm not. So he was in Guardians of the Galaxy. So he was one of the Xandarian, I want to say, generals. And he was also in Shaun of the Dead. I can't quite remember what character he was. But he was... I'm trying to think of what else he was in. I've seen him in all sorts of things, but yeah, it sounded like him. It would be great if we got Peter in here. And then the last shot is of the swimming Spinosaurus, which when I watched the trailer at like 4 in the morning, and I saw that, and I basically jumped out of bed. And you can also see, other than the really exciting reveal of a swimming Spinosaurus, several different plants. So we've got the pine trees and the redwoods, but also fallen logs and stumps. So that's going to be really cool. So it's likely part of the modular building set that you'll be able to place some stumps and some fallen logs. So that's going to be really cool for creating some really unique habitats. And this one in particular is an amazing Spinosaurus exhibit. And now we have another piece of footage that was found. So going through it, we see our Triceratops in their habitat, male in the foreground, as well as the juvenile playing with its mother. I didn't really want to pause this one because like you've got all sorts of stuff going on. So we see our baby velociraptors, as well as the return of the social interaction there between the adults, a social interaction between the babies. And we have a Mosasaurus. Kelp is back. The Mosasaurus looks fantastic as always, and you got the baby playing around, almost like a young orca in a way. And you got him swimming under the other baby there. Oop, a little bit of lag. And the return of Quetzalcoatlus is a welcome one at that. So you can see our male and female and the babies, and also the male in the back actively walking. And also a nest with eggs for our Tyrannosaurus rexes. And you can see Lil Junior here from the Lost World. Not with the Lost World parents, but you know. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can see here. So there was also some paras in the back. There's different patterns on the male, so hopefully it's actually different patterns in general and not just different colors of pattern. So you can see our adult velociraptors. This video's on a loop, so I'm just trying to pick up stuff new each time. But yeah, I love how the baby raptor is basically beta. But look at that lagoon. That is infinitesimally better than the lagoons that we had in Evolution 2. Like, there's just so much going on. You've got the rocks, you've got the kelp, and you've got the lagoon feeder. I'm assuming that that's what that is, as the Mosa looked like it was going up to it. But you've got the Quetz here, baby taken off. So this looks like it's the same aviary from the trailer that the Pteranodons were in. Got a little baby Quetzes. But, oh man, seeing the Quetzalcoatlus walk is just so satisfying to see, because they were flying in these fairly cramped aviaries for so long, and it looks like they can still fly in them. But I'm curious to see whether the aviaries have actually changed. You're actually able to change the size of the aviary. Like you'll have a small aviary, medium aviary, large aviary. It's possible. You've also got a new viewing gallery over there, which almost looks like a viewing vent. The gyro station was also over there. But yeah, I am very curious to see how the aviaries and lagoons will be able to function in the game, because they seem to be a lot better than what they were previously. Lagoon even looks a little bit deeper, perhaps, so possibly able to make almost abyssal lagoons, perhaps. But yeah, you've got a lot of stuff going on, so it looks like you're able to actively edit the floor of the lagoon. Quetz is so tall that it's hard to tell, but it looks like if you're able to make the ground deeper inside the lagoon, then in the aviary, then Quetz probably will look a bit more comfortable flying about. But yeah, that's I think all for this clip. And of course you have this little interaction between the baby T-Rex and its dad. And here is one of the exciting things. So this comes courtesy of Jurassic Resort. Both clips do, as I wasn't able to find them in their isolated forms. So huge shout out to Jurassic Resort for being able to get some clear looks at the footage that's here. So you can see our world map of the campaign. So you've got all sorts of different locations. So you've got Hawaii, Nevada, Montana, the Azores, which is an interesting one. So that's a group of islands off the coast of Portugal, Spain and Morocco. We've also got the Dolomites, so we are likely returning to Biosun Valley. And we've got Malta, so we're returning to that Dominion location. Also going to China, which is going to be really cool. Japan, of course, we know. And Indonesia. Indonesia is one of my favorite countries, just because of the landscape and the wildlife that lives there. But it's going to be really cool to have a Jurassic Park, or Jurassic World in this case, facility in Indonesia. Now I don't know quite what order it's actually going to be going in, whether you finish in Asia or you finish in Europe, or you finish in North America where you started. I'm not sure. But one thing I will make note of is that Australia, Africa, and South America do not have maps. Now, the Los Cinco Muertes is likely returning, so the Five Deaths, as well as Isla Nublar, and above Suriname, which is which is in South America. You'll have Ile Saint Hubert, which is the island in Jurassic World Rebirth. So that will technically be a South American island. But one thing I am curious about is whether they've left these empty on purpose. And you've also got Siberia is empty as well, and Canada. Although, given that Evolution 2 had Canadian maps, that Canada is probably returning. But South America, Australia, Siberia, and Australia having absent maps does lead me to possibly suggest that a Cenozoic expansion could be on the cards later in Evolution 3's lifespan, possibly as the first major story DLC, although Rebirth could have one of those as well. But it is possible to suggest that these continents have been left exposed on purpose because we may be getting prehistoric mammals in the DLC. It would be really cool if we did, because we do have Megalodon, which is a Cenozoic species. So getting more to flesh out that time era would be really cool. And Australia, Africa, and South America, as well as Siberia, have some pretty iconic locations that would be very suitable for a Cenozoic roster. So you could get Megalania, you could get Arsinoitherium, Mammoth, of course, Smilodon, Megatherium, Terrabirds, Diprotodon, all sorts of things that are possible for a Cenozoic expansion. But let me know what you think of the locations in the campaign. The Azores is interesting because I've seen several times documentaries going to the Azores to film whales. So potentially the Azores is going to be a lagoon-focused mission, which would be a really cool thing to have, because we didn't have that in Evolution 2, so it's going to be really interesting to see if that is the case. Next we have a clip showing basically how breeding works. So in that egg slot you have sort of a fertility meter. So they actually have female animals will have fertility cycles. So basically you have to time the introduction of a male, or at least they will only breed during that time and also in optimal conditions. So as long as all the animals are happy and healthy, that is going to determine how successful your breeding will be, and could also determine how many babies are going to be produced from the nest. It's also cool to see the actual nest release animation, which probably is just going to happen at random. Like, you're not going to have a choice on when you're going to be able to release those animals, so they're probably just going to come out of the exhibit on their own. But you also see the return of the ranger post as well as the ranger team. So maintenance team has not taken over in place of the ranger team. So ranger team, capture team, MBU, and maintenance team are all different teams that you're going to have. And you also see the return of the gyrosphere, so that's really cool to see, as well as a pretty cool environment here, which looks like you actually have a mud texture. I don't know whether animals will actually be able to roll around in that or not, but it is a really cool texture to have, to especially add to wetland habitats. So yeah, and the baby trikes are of course cute. And this next shot is just a brief panning shot where you see a part of the Japanese park, particularly some of the returning facility buildings. So you can see our power station, our capture team building, staff center, power generator, but you also see several examples from the modular buildings. So you can see a sort of facade of Asian style buildings next to the facilities, so you'll be able to properly isolate your facility buildings from the rest of the park. I'm sorry, but I wasn't able to slow this footage down. But you also see Parasaurolophus down in the bottom there in that enclosure. I'm excited to see the baby paras. You also see one of the new viewing galleries, I'm assuming perhaps, although it could just be another modular building. But with some of the supports on that facade in the middle there, you could almost recreate the Indominus Rex paddock from scratch. And I think that's going to be really cool to have if you are able to just simply recreate those attractions from Jurassic World yourself. And Frontier didn't actually have to make them their own attractions. You can just, well, build them yourself and then share them on the Frontier Workshop. Just trying to see if there's any other things I can spot in this very fast image. Of course, you also have the bar on the side, which shows you your different menus. So you've got the management, sort of like your bird's eye view, management view, so it's going to show you heat maps, operations buildings, enclosure buildings, attractions, looks to be what the one with the guest and the binoculars is, and guest facilities. Then you have environment, pathing, power, and I imagine that tab is for the decorations and the modular building and all that. And then you have transport team, that one under transport team, so we're looking at the left here, looks like possibly multi-select. I think that's what it looks like, because I've seen a similar icon in Planet Zoo. And then you have a camera below that, which looks to be sort of explore or first person mode in this case, as that first person camera is not in this tab here, but it is sandbox. So yeah, and then you've also got the demolish tab. And following this, we get a look at the maintenance team in action. So you can see them in their little golf cart, or the ATV really. So you have their little station, which thankfully isn't as large and bulky as the ranger team. It's fairly small and discreet, in comparison at least. And you can see them going through all these different habitats and through the park itself. Yeah, that definitely looks like a mud texture because it didn't create a splash of water. But yeah, it's going to be really cool just driving around as your maintenance team, as it is a somewhat less clunky way of going around your park, instead of having to drive around in a Jeep. Although I did think I saw a dinosaur up in the top there. Might be a Brachiosaurus. So I'm pretty sure there are brachiosaurs in this park, so might not be another sauropod. Then we have this shot showing off the security cameras. So you'll basically place them down and they're able to see an escape happen and then focus on an escaped dinosaur. That will then trigger your capture team, I'm assuming, to go tranquilize your escaped Triceratops. We've also got the paras down the bottom there, and also a pretty waterfall over in the corner of the habitat. But yeah, with the new water plants, so aquatic plants and wetland flora, it can create a really beautiful habitat. And you can also see, I think it was at the start, you could see several different facility buildings. So when it loops back, you can also see a emergency shelter. But yeah, you got Jurassic Park View Visitor Center. So the Jurassic Park building set looks to be returning, which is a good thing. So you're able to recreate different eras. And I would just expect that, considering the Badlands scenery set that you get with pre-order. Yeah, also paras look to be all over this park, because I'm pretty sure that was another para enclosure up in the top left. And then this one goes over the terrain tools. Modular is next. But you can see our Spinosaurus down in the bottom there, in their little canyon. But you can see all the terrain tools at work, and it looks like you're actually able to select the rocks individually from how they formed. And possibly rocks are just another piece that you're able to use, because a lot of those rocks do look fairly similar. And this is how you create waterfalls. So you place the water at the top, and the water simply flows over the side, creating a waterfall. And then you have your deep water, which allows dinosaurs like Spinosaurus to go in and actively swim about. So this is our male Spinosaurus. So you can see he goes in and then starts to swim and then feeds on fish that he finds in the water. So it's a fairly similar animation to what was seen when they actually went for the fish feeder in Evolution 1 and 2. But it's pretty cool for a starting point, because I feel like, just like Planet Zoo, they could potentially add a deep diving update. So eventually, in the future of Evolution 2, they could potentially allow Spinosaurus, Baryonyx, Suchomimus, possibly Pyroraptor to actually dive down into water to actually swim below the surface rather than just swimming at the top. But swimming itself is a real game changer for building enclosures for these animals, as you're going to have some really cool ideas, I imagine. And yeah, Spinosaurus doesn't look like to have had a design change this time around, because honestly the Evolution 2 one is fairly perfect in terms of its accuracy to the animatronic of the Spinosaurus, not necessarily to the CGI model, as both were actually fairly different to one another. But yeah, Spinosaurus is easily one of the best dinosaurs that was in Evolution 2, and it's great to see it just getting better and better with the ability to swim. And you have the remote viewing gallery, the log, off in the back of one of those shots, and you can see how the rocks can be placed at the edge of the lagoons as well. So yeah, all really cool stuff. Now we get on to the modular building, of which there is just so much that you're going to be able to do in this game. Like, this is looking to be just the ultimate Jurassic World Evolution. Like, you have the option to place pre-built buildings if you'd like, but you also have the opportunity to build buildings from scratch, and with all sorts of different building pieces to actually use. So you've got all sorts in there. You've actually got the crane, bin bags, like trash bags, shipping containers, art shapes even. Some of those look like the ones from Planet Zoo. You've also got different moving tools, so you're able to move them on the X, Y, and Z axes. You've also got the rotation tool. And yeah, just a lot of really cool tools that you're going to be able to have to be able to create some really interesting exhibits in Jurassic World Evolution 2, and also some really cool buildings. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say on modular building, as I'm fairly familiar with it, having played Planet Zoo for so long. You've also got the return of, I think that's the pile of dung from the 30th anniversary update for Jurassic Park in Evolution 2. I've also got some signage, some vending machines, and it's great to see that there's decorations that guests can actually use. But yeah, you've also got the return of the Jurassic Park emergency shelter down the bottom there. But yeah, I'm really excited to go through all the pieces and see what decorations we have to work with in this game. And then just this brief final bit from Jurassic Resort's video showing the hotel. And honestly, it's a fairly nice looking hotel, if I do say so myself. And you can see the waterfalls being fairly versatile in that they can run over not all too steep surfaces. And you also saw back there the maintenance team actively being charged at by an angry Triceratops. So maintenance teams don't look to be safe from the dinosaurs as much as the ranger teams weren't either. So it's going to be interesting seeing just what kind of destruction the dinosaurs will be able to do to the vehicles in this game. Because one feature I did discuss in my speculation videos was like more unique pursuits of vehicles. So potentially the T-Rex chase being recreated from Jurassic Park, or potentially dinosaurs actually grabbing the vehicle with their jaws and actually swinging it about, which would be really cool, and potentially ceratopsians actually getting their horns under and flipping the car over. And you've also got the pterosaurs attacking the helicopters. And I do wonder if they'll also be able to attack the monorail like they did in Camp Cretaceous, and possibly the hot air balloon tour. So yeah, there's a lot of creativity, but also a lot of potential destruction that's going to occur in Evolution 3. And then after the gameplay trailer release, we also got some screenshots added to the Jurassic World Evolution 3 website. So you can see a little profile here for our Stegosaurus juvenile, and also the reveal of the Jurassic World Stegosaurus here. So with a really cool pattern actually. I am still very curious as to whether we're going to have different patterns, because this isn't the same pattern that we had for the Stegosaurus in Jurassic World Evolution 1, but then again that was a female, and that looks like what the Stegosaurus behind it has. What other dimorphism the males and females will have, we'll have to wait and see. because I think for many species it's going to be fairly subtle, and some species it's actually going to be pretty noticeable. Particularly, I'm looking forward to seeing the male Nasutoceratops, because it should resemble the male that we were witness to in Battle at Big Rock and Jurassic World Chaos Theory and Dominion. So hopefully that male Nasutoceratops has made it into the game. This screenshot shows the transport team transporting a dinosaur crate to the habitat. So there was one shot that I saw in a piece of footage that showed the harness being used on the dinosaurs, but I don't know if it's like you place the crate down, then you lift the dinosaur out of the crate with the harness, and then that's how you transport them. But I think it would be really cool if they just walked out the doors of the crate. But that's a fairly big crate, and I'm curious as to what's supposed to be in that. I don't know if it would be a Brachiosaurus, as I don't think you'd be able to squeeze one inside a large container like that. But hey, it's a game after all, so anything's possible. But yeah, you do get a look at some Brachiosaurs and the little baby in between. And this shot shows off the Geosternbergia, which we saw in the announcement trailer, showcasing the walking of the pterosaurs. But we see all three different Geosternbergia that we will have. So the male in the middle with the very colourful head crest, the female in the front with a more reduced head crest and less bright colours, and then the little baby trying to catch up behind them. But yeah, I was curious as to what the female Geosternbergia was going to look like, but I'm glad Frontier actually made the female more subtle than what were supposedly female Geosternbergias in Jurassic World Evolution 2. We also get a shot of a mosasaur family swimming around their lagoon. The underwater viewing dome can be seen in the back. Even though I got this from the website, the picture quality has gone down for some reason. But yeah, you can see the return of that viewing dome, which is a good sign. You also got a little baby with his mouth open, and the two adults. Now I can't tell which one's the male and which one's the female from this angle, but yeah, I feel like the male does have a more distinct ridge of scoots on its back, and the female is more subtle. So it could be the male being in the middle here, but yeah, we'll have to get closer looks at these animals side by side to really tell the difference. Speaking of telling the difference, here's a good side-by-side shot of the male and female Triceratops. So you can see our female Triceratops, which is the one we got used to seeing quite prevalently in Evolution 1 and 2, having that Jurassic World design with the fairly short horns compared to the male, which has a much larger frill, longer horns that actually splay out to the side a bit, a more pronounced nose horn, as well as a bit more patterning going on. Now this looks like a possibly different pattern, or at least different coloured pattern, so it may be the same as what we had in Evolution 2, where you have one pattern per species, but you can change the colour. I kind of hope that's not the case. I would love to see a few more patterns, but I am okay with it being the same. Because technically you do get two patterns per species, one for males and one for females, so it's kind of win-win. Then you get this shot of a little T-Rex interacting with its mother. I do like how they've integrated the evidence of a very sensitive face for the T-Rex, because in Prehistoric Planet you saw them actively nuzzling, and that looks like what they're doing here with the female T-Rex nuzzling with its offspring. And possibly that is what the sort of mating animation is going to be between the male and the female. The male looks to be the one in the back, and between the Jurassic World T-Rexes, I don't know if there's too much difference, although he could have a more pronounced lacrimal crest and perhaps a little bit more of a dewlap, which is what the buck had in The Lost World. So it's possible that they've integrated that into the Jurassic World Evolution T-Rex model, which is sort of a blend of Jurassic World and Jurassic Park anyway. But when it comes to era-specific variants, which I did speculate on all those months ago, the InGen T-Rex variant, if it is a variant at all, could have more pronounced sexual dimorphism than the regular evolution one, as it was fairly clear to see in The Lost World, with the buck T-Rex being a lot more bulky, having dewlap, and being more colourful than the female, well, the doe. We also have a look at one of our amenities, which is Winston's. So this was I believe it's not a real business, but it was created for Jurassic World. So this was, I think it's the Winston Steakhouse. So that was sort of it was the building that was used as the bar in Evolution 1. But yeah, it was a steakhouse and bar and sort of lounge in Jurassic World. So that, I believe, was named after Stan Winston, who created the animatronics for the Jurassic Park movies, who did sadly pass away not too long after. But yeah, it's great to see more and more of the original Jurassic Park, not just pieces of the film, but also sort of tributes to people that worked on the film and were sort of crucial to the magic that was created with the films too. So it's great to see Winston's being added here. Also looks like the amenity has an elevator, so that would be interesting to see if that actually works, although I don't think it will. We've also got some solar panels, which I don't think were actually in Evolution 1 or 2 at all. I think we were just using geothermal and the regular power stations. But here you can actually see some renewable power sources, which is something I did speculate on, potentially integrating into the game, so wind and solar. But it could just be a decoration and not actually be a working power piece. But you never know, we'll have to wait and see. And then our second last screenshot, we see a bit more of the Mediterranean theme, I'm pretty sure, at least, here with this building, which I'm not sure what it's supposed to be. It reminds me a little bit of an inn, so that could be what it is. But you can see it's got those nice ceramic tile roofs and the wooden supports, the fencing. I don't use a lot of architectural terms, so there's probably specific names for it, and I'm just not able to remember them right now. But it's a really nice building. You can also see a Joshua tree next to it, so specific biome-specific and even continent-specific plants can be used on every map. So that's a good sign to see, and that was something I think you were able to do in Evolution 2 by the end. And then our final screenshot shows off the Spinosaurus swimming through its habitat, and a pretty good look at this skin, which I believe was the Sonoran Desert skin for the Spino, which was a much more intense version of the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus skin, which was the Death Valley skin. I almost prefer this one. It's very vibrant. I love the colors on it. But yeah, Spinosaurus doesn't look to have undergone a change, but seeing it swimming really just makes the dinosaur a lot cooler, cooler than it already was. But yeah, when Rebirth comes out with the Rebirth Spinos, it's going to be really nice to see them actually swimming in their habitats too. But that is all we have for this video. I mean, I say all we have, there was a lot there. But yeah, it just increases my excitement for this game, as it just has so much that we were asking for, and all these features that, well, we didn't directly ask for, but Frontier has taken it upon themselves to actively add to the game to really enhance the experience. And yeah, I'm just so excited to see more and more of this game, more of the dinosaurs, more of the juveniles, more of the male individuals, more of the modular pieces, because honestly, that is very exciting, because there could be all sorts of decorations that we just don't know about yet, as well as the combat. I'm really excited to see any changes to the combat that have happened, and yeah, the attractions, new behaviors, all that sort of stuff, and those dinosaur statues that you can see right there. I'm really excited to see how many of those have been made, whether it's just canonical species or almost every species in the game. Yeah, and the terrain tools are really looking to be one of my favourite new features, and I think it is one of the two standout features. I believe breeding and an enhanced terrain system are the two standout features, although modular building could also be. One whether we'll actually get a definitive answer to the two standout features, because it almost looks like more than two at this point. But yeah, what is your favorite feature that was discussed in this video? Let me know down in the comments, and as this power goes out, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.